All right, one of the best games of the NFL season is how we're going to start week 5 here on First and Pod. We do every game every week. Listen and subscribe to First and Pod on the Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Andrew Fillipponi, joined by three-time All-Pro corner Patrick Peterson, and this game went to overtime. Falcons 36, Buccaneers 30. Pat, I can't believe it. When that interception happened with Cousins, there was a minute left in the game.
Yep.
And I would never have guessed at that juncture that Tampa Bay would have scored no points because they basically started in field goal range.
Yep.
And Atlanta would come down, tie the game, and then win it with a walk-off touchdown reception in overtime. We said on this podcast before last week's Falcons game, when they were getting ready to play the Saints, that was the type of game that was supposed to show why the Kirk Cousins signing was made. And this game did that even more because he accounted for 4 touchdowns here in that great last-minute drive. We can't say the guy sucks in prime time anymore. We got to shed that. We can't make fun of Kirk Cousins for primetime screw-ups. Bury that. Put that away for good. He showed up and played one of the best games by a quarterback all year tonight.
No doubt about it. It was a great game, top to bottom, the way they came out. Kirk, from the first drive of the game, leading his team down with a touchdown. Then Baker Mayfield answering right back, driving his team down there with the Mike Evans touchdown. So it was a lot of back and forth in this ball game. But as you stated, this is why they signed Kirk Cousins. Going out there throwing for 40, he threw 42. He completed 42 passes of 58 for 509 yards, most yards in franchise history in the Atlanta Falcons. Then you had London Drake, who had another big game.
Drake London,
Drake London, who had a big game for them as well. 12 catches for 154 yards. And going back to your point as well about that, I would have never thought that the Atlanta Falcons would have had an opportunity to go down and have a Young Hoku give them an opportunity to go into overtime because of the situation that they was in. First thing I thought of when they was in fourth down, I said, I punt it because we got 3 timeouts. You'll probably get the ball back in that same field position with no timeouts. It'll be best for you to be going for 3 versus having to go for a whole touchdown. But it ended up working out in their favor. They end up getting Tampa Bay ended up getting a holding call, which ended up knocking them back out of field goal range. And
that's one of the biggest penalties in the NFL this season.
Yes, and which gave Atlanta Falcons an opportunity to hold Tampa Bay to a punt and gave Kirk Cousins an opportunity to drive the ball down there and take the game into overtime. But that game overall was another staple of why the Atlanta Falcons went out and gave Kirk Cousins what they did.
This division's way better than I thought it was going to be before the season started. I thought Tampa was going to take a step back. I didn't think Baker was a one-hit wonder, but I thought he was going to have a hard time replicating what he did last year. I've been wrong about that. I mean, I think he's actually even been better than he was last year through these first 5 games. Cousins now, after he shook off the rust against the Steelers the first week, this Bucs defense is no joke. Look what they did to Philly last week. Look what they've done to Detroit and Jared Goff. So to put up 36 and 500 yards is a testament to them. And see what New Orleans does against Kansas City on Monday night, but they're no slouch either. So they've got 3 teams that are legitimately competing for a playoff spot. And Atlanta, and this is a poor man's version of this, Pat, but Atlanta, because I have to stress that, but Atlanta reminds me of when Brady went to Tampa with Bruce Arians, your old coach, and all the pieces were there to be a good team. They just needed a quarterback to correctly run the offense because James could make big plays, but he also threw too many interceptions. And that stabilized everything for them. And I don't think Atlanta's going to win the Super Bowl like Brady did in year 1 with Tampa, but he takes them from in my opinion, they go from a 7-win team to like a 10 or 11 win team just because they upgraded at quarterback, Pat.
No doubt about it. And just go back and look at the situations that they were in, and that how he had the awareness enough to be able to get down there and spike that ball to put the to take the game into overtime.
With 1 second.
Yeah, but 1 second left. It was 12 seconds left. Kurt knew that obviously that play took a little bit longer than what he wanted to. Gave the big guys a little bit further to run to try to get to the ball to try to get another play off to spike the ball to have Young Ku come out to kick the field goal to take them in overtime. But just the experience of being in those type of situations, understanding the moment, and understanding how swiftly and quickly that you have to move, how the sense of urgency in that moment, it just goes to show, like, this is why you not only brought Kirk Cousins in, but you paid for the experience that he brings as well.
Last second field goal against the Saints and an overtime win could easily both have been losses. If they lose both these games, Pat, they're 1-4 instead of 3-2. And if they're 1-4, even with Cousins playing well, the conversation is so different. It's about, like, when is Penix going to play?
Right.
So give this team credit for winning these close division games at home. Last point I'll make on this game, Atlanta, wear these uniforms every week. Your other uniforms are buns. They're so ugly with the ATL on them, with the weird Falcon logo.
Right.
The throwback red with the crisp black and white jerseys from like the early 90s when Dion was there and Andre Rison. These are fire uniforms. They need to wear these every week, Pat.
Yeah, the uniform inspection tonight for me, A+.
Yeah. All right, Pat, let's take a look at all the games now. And I did something different here. I combined 3 games to start because all 3 of these games have the same juicy subplot.
Yep.
Jets Vikings in London Sunday morning, Cowboys Steelers Sunday night, and then Monday night Saints Chiefs. Jets, Steelers, and Saints are the 3 teams that are linked to Devante Adams the most right now. Adams has requested a trade. It's unlikely, I think, he plays another game for the Raiders. Your thoughts on what's going on here, and in your opinion, what team makes the most sense?
The team that makes the most sense would be the Jets because of the relationship and the success that he have had with Aaron Rodgers. I don't see him going back, to Derek Carr, who he just came from in Las Vegas, and who was the Pittsburgh Steelers. I can see Steelers trying to make a move for him, but I think the best move would be the Jets, in my opinion, just because of the success that he have had with Aaron Rodgers. I believe if Aaron Rodgers does get another dynamic weapon like a Devante Adams, it will make that offense that much more dynamic and take the pressure off the young receiver.
Garrett Wilson there, you're saying.
Garrett Wilson, yeah, taking the pressure off Garrett.
Well, I'll tell you, that would be a situation. Aaron Rodgers bitched and complained about how they never used first-round picks on wide receivers and was very upset when the Jordan Love thing happened. They have, I think, an embarrassment of riches, almost too many guys to get the ball to if they got Adams. Between Adams, Wilson, Lazard, who we loved from Green Bay.
Yeah.
Then you've got the running backs there, Conklin, the tight end. I mean, I think that would be the best offense from a position player, skill position player he ever played in if they do that. I mean, so I get why Adams wants it. You know that Rodgers is trying to force it to happen. You know,
right.
I'm going to answer the question here myself, but I have to ask you as a guy who covered him. How good is Devante Adams at this point in his career at 31 years old, Pat? What kind of wide receiver do you see?
He's a savvy vet. He still can get open, very shifty. He's a guy that understands, defenses, understands leverages from cornerbacks. So he's a guy who still can get open. He just needs a quarterback who can get him the football. So he can still be productive in any offense. So it's going to be interesting to see, how this all end up playing out. But I do think.
Would you look at him as the one there to Wilson? Do you think he'd be the number one guy with the Jets?
No, he'll be number 2 guy.
Yeah.
He won't. Yeah, he won't. He will not be getting. He'll come there and be the number 2 guy. He will not be seeing the same amount of targets that he will be accustomed of. But at least he'll draw one-on-one coverages now.
Yeah, well, he was targeted the second. I think the only guy in the NFL that had the ball thrown his way more last year was CeeDee Lamb in Dallas. So the guy's used to getting huge amounts of looks. Now, because they're a championship contender and he trusts the quarterback, you'd like to think that he would be fine with a diminished role where he's not the guy that's getting the ball thrown to him 10 times a game.
Right.
I want the Steelers to happen selfishly because it would be good for the team that I cover because they badly need a wide receiver. They'd have to make some, really have to move heaven and earth with the salary cap in order to make that happen because TJ's going to have a contract extension next year, Pat. You got to figure out what you're doing with Fields. George Pickens is going to have to get paid. I mean, there's massive decisions that have to get made on top of what you do with Adams. Yep. So if Omar Khan can do that, well, then give him a raise if he can make all of those things work. I have a hard time believing he's going to give up the draft capital to do it. I think the Jets are going to be more desperate to do it. You agree with me on that?
I do. But, I see the Jets.
But the Saints thing, I know that we saw it for a minute that 1 year in Vegas with Carr and Adams. But I am intrigued by it because Olave's there too. They have a better play caller now than what they had in Vegas. The wide receivers coach there was Adams, receivers coach at Fresno State. So like he's dying to get back to work with that guy. And I don't know, like I've always had a soft spot for Carr. I used to think he was one of these guys that was just put in a bad situation and could be like a Matthew Stafford, where if you got him out of Detroit and put him on a better team, he could win a Super Bowl. I don't feel that way about him anymore. But hell, if he had Olave, Adams, Kamara, with the Kubiak, that's a real friggin' offense, Pat. Yeah. That's an offense that can average 28 points a game right there.
Yeah. I don't know what the Saints, cap number.
It's horrible. They're always right at the number every year. Right. Every year, man.
So they might not even have enough because I don't see the Saints, giving up the, draft capital either. Just like for me, I think the best fit would be, I won't say the best fit. The team who should really go out and get him, but I don't know how he will fit in their offense is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh my God.
But I just don't know how he will fit in that offense because
we'll never find out because their owner would basically stand in front of the plane to fly into Kansas City to keep him from going there. The Raiders don't make a trade like that with the Chiefs. They're arch rivals. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that I feel like that's the team who,
from a fit standpoint,
from a fit standpoint, who should really, go out and pursue him.
Would you look at the Jets as a Super Bowl contender if they got Adams? Would he make that kind of difference for them?
No. They can be a divisional. I don't know if this is a thing. A divisional round contender.
Okay, it is. We just made it a thing on First and Pod. They're a divisional round contender. That's fine.
Because they're coming probably second in the division, getting a wild card. Aaron Rodgers will play good enough, to get his team out, out of the first round, and we'll see what happens after that.
I just respect your opinion on this so much because you've actually been out there and played these guys. When you hear people on TV talk about Devante Adams, they still act like he's a top 5 wide receiver. And I think what you're saying in a very respectful way is the guy can still play. He's an asset to a team, but let's not get it twisted and put him in like the Jefferson and Chase category of wide receiver anymore. Is that fair?
Yeah. Let's see what you got. Let's name some receivers. Let's name some receivers. You got Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Chase,
Amon-Ra.
I'll take Devante over him though.
DK Metcalf.
You got DK Metcalf. That's a AJ Brown.
How about Mike Evans?
Mike Evans. Man. Yeah.
How about Nico Collins with what he's doing right now?
Yeah, Nico Collins. I'll probably say, he's not respectfully, and that's my guy. Like, Like Devontae's that's my guy, but I'll probably say he's a top 10 receiver for sure.
Okay.
He's a top 10. Just them young bulls right now, they on a whole nother level right now, man. Them young bulls are on a whole nother level. But all right, talking about receivers, let's move over to this Bills and Houston Texans game. Who you think won the trade? Texans or the Bills?
I'm going to say Houston. Now, it's so funny because the Bills now, after the Baltimore game, I think they feel like they should. Their fans do. I mean, should get in on the Devante Adams sweepstakes, but there's been no reporting or anything that suggests that they are a serious contender for Adams. But before that game, they were like, "Oh, everybody eats. We don't need a Stephon Diggs. Everybody eats down here. Spread it around, and we're just fine." You score 10 points and get blown out by 25 by another team. It causes you to look in the mirror a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. I think Allen, we talked about this, that I think Allen got frustrated by Diggs constantly demanding the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe at some point the Bills are going to run into a situation where not having a guy who can beat the perfect defense or the perfect matchup is going to come back to bite him. And I don't think Diggs is, like you just said, top 10 for Adams. I don't think Diggs is that guy anymore, but I think he's good enough where when you put him in with Collins and Dell, and now he gets to slot in as a high-end number 2, the Texans, in my opinion, moved ahead of the Bills in my pecking order of AFC teams after that trade. Now, they have not played up to their potential yet. This is a huge game for them at home.
It is.
And I think to make this prognostication of mine right, they got to win this game, and Diggs has got to play well. But just to answer the question, would I rather have Stephon Diggs or not have Stephon Diggs? I'd rather have him. They're talking addition by subtraction in Buffalo, and it looked great for Josh Allen for 3 games, Pat, but I think they got to get another playmaker in there if they're going to knock off Kansas City and get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. I believe Houston want this trade, not only getting a star receiver, but also being able to get some draft equity in the future, picking up a 6th-round draft pick in 2024, 5th round in 2025. And it's still kind of too early for us to see if, Stephon Diggs trade to Houston is really going to pay off, because both of these teams have the same record. Stephon's not really, being the guy who we are used to seeing, still trying to get his feet wet with the new offense that he's involved in right now.
How do you think he's doing with that? Do you think he's the personality where like he's okay being more of a Robin than a Batman, Pat?
Looking at him on TV, it seemed like he is. It seemed like he's, come to grasp or understanding that, I'm now here on my 3rd team. A little older in the tooth. They got some young bulls here. I can come and contribute. I don't have to put my cape on each and every day. You know what I mean? So I think he's taking it well, from the outside looking in.
Yeah. Well, it's just from a cornerback situation, there's no easy matchup. Some guys are in a situation where their coaches say just play one side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
That assignment doesn't get any easier if it's Collins 1 rep, Diggs the next, maybe Dell occasionally. Like they've got a triplet situation there where they should be scoring more points than they have through the first 4 games. And it is a big measuring stick game for Houston. We saw the Bills fail at their first one last week against Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Now Houston gets Buffalo down there and a chance to prove to people that they are a legit contender. Browns and Commanders. So you were singing the praises of Jayden Daniels after that performance he put on, the show he put on last week.
Yep.
And I'm going to up the ante here.
Oh,
is he a legit MVP candidate?
Right now, yeah. The way he's playing, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Simple as that. The way he's playing football right now, yes. He's playing like a top 5 quarterback in the league as a rookie. I mean,
give me something beyond just the stats that would make a former player like yourself say that about him.
Like, just look at him playing. Like when I watched the game last week, even when they played the Cincinnati Bengals, just watching his poise.
Mm-hmm.
When he went off on the sideline on the coaching staff, telling them to hurry up and get the play in because the play clock kept running down, telling the coach that we're going for it. Like those are things that you don't see. You normally see rookie quarterbacks coming into the league very timid, don't really have the confidence or the swagger just yet that they left college with. And he has that. And he's been carrying that swagger ever since he got in there. And the team is starting to believe and trust in him. You can just tell how their defense is responding to him. You can just tell how the energy that the guys bring each and every time they step out there on the football field. And I had the opportunity to watch them 2 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like their confidence level is just growing more and more each and every week. The more games they win and the fashion that they're winning these ball games in. The week before they won in a close one. But the Cincinnati game, it was a close ball game. You had to make every single throw, had to be on the money. It wasn't a moment that could go by that it wasn't a moment that was afforded to be wasted in the Cincinnati game. Then you come back the following week and just march the ball up and down a pretty solid Arizona defense without even blinking. I think they punted twice in that game, maybe.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, and that's just not only in that game. I think they only punted 7 times the entire season.
It's crazy.
So, right. So that's just remarkable for a young quarterback to be orchestrating the offense the way that he's doing on a consistent basis, week in and week out. So that's
if Drew Brees in his prime was completing 80% of his passes, I would be singing his praises and saying the guy is an incredibly accurate quarterback.
And on top of that, though, Pony, it's not like it's like 5-yard passes, 7 yards. It's like 15 plus bombs, dimes, posts. Like he's throwing the ball down the field and completing it and putting the ball in stride to his receivers. So, yeah, that's why. I mean, do you think Jayden Daniels is a legitimate MVP candidate right now?
Well, I have to answer yes, because on this podcast last year, we famously made a bet on Stroud, like at the same time, a huge bet when he was like 100-1 to win the MVP. And we got excited when his odds got down to 10-1 that we had a shot, and he didn't end up winning it, but we felt like we were on the right track.
Right.
And so I feel we laughed about it. We made a good losing bet. We could feel good about our process, even though we didn't win any money. I know that's how sick we are. So I look at this situation similarly with Daniels. He reminds me of a few different guys. It's so interesting that it's happening in Washington because this is very reminiscent of how RG3 started his career. He went to New Orleans and won his first game as a big underdog. They got off to a good start. They ended up winning the division that year, hosting a playoff game against Seattle. This team's in position to win the division right now, too, where a rookie quarterback takes the league by storm. And unfortunately, we know how it ended with him with that knee injury against Seattle. But you're getting that. The dual threat stuff is there the same way it was with RG3, although I think Daniels is a better passer than Robert was his first year. No disrespect to him. I think that he's also similar to Burrow in that the extra years in college, I think, have paid off because you're seeing a maturity there. I see a guy who you can tell he's in his mid-20s and not his early 20s from the way he plays. So I think that that's obviously been a big thing. And I thought, and I got into a huge argument with our mutual friend Ryan Clark about this back in the day. I thought Andrew Luck should have been the MVP his rookie year because the Colts went from literally the worst team in the NFL to a playoff team. And I said, if we're using the definition of most valuable, if you added 10 wins to your team, how are you not valuable? And Ryan said I was an idiot and said, if a guy goes for 2,000 yards like Adrian Peterson did, he should be the MVP. And he ended up being right, and I ended up being wrong. But the point still stands. Like, this team has a very good chance of going from the second worst team in the NFL to a team that wins double-digit games. And that very definition of making a team that much better should make you an MVP candidate.
100%. 100%. All right, let's move on. We got the Cardinals and the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey is traveling to Germany to get a second opinion. Can the San Francisco 49ers win it without him?
I think they can. I think that we've seen Kyle Shanahan do it with other guys like Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Jordan Mason. I think has had a pretty good year just sliding in there. His dad, Terrell Davis, Olandis Gary, Mike Anderson, Clinton Portis. I mean, that system is just so. We talk about how quarterback friendly it's been for guys like Brock Purdy, but that zone scheme has produced so many great runners. Guys that weren't even drafted came out of nowhere. So I'm not going to say that the 49ers are screwed because Christian McCaffrey is out. However, I think that it's a fair question to ask because I don't think it's a sure thing at all we're going to see McCaffrey this year. I think this is looking bleak. It's Achilles tendonitis. His dad, of all people, Ed McCaffrey from the 49ers and Broncos back in the day and Giants, said, Pat, that he thinks that this is an injury where Christian did it to himself because Achilles tendonitis, he thinks, is from like overuse, overtraining, and his son pushed himself too hard, and that's where this whole thing started. So I thought that was interesting that he would say that out loud and publicly and kind of blame his kid for his situation. I thought that was kind of crazy. But if the dad's speaking out that way, you can tell he's concerned for his son's well-being. And this is not just a small deal. You don't travel all the way to Germany, Pat, if it's just a basic injury. We've got enough good doctors here. You don't have to go to Europe to take a look at something unless it's serious.
Yeah, I hear it's both Achilles.
Yeah, it is both.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that? Did you ever go to a foreign country to get yourself checked out? I've never heard of this before.
Man, thank God I've never been injured like that to have to go anywhere to get no treatment. So thank God throughout my 13 years in the NFL, I just suffered a pulled hamstring, and that was it.
Damn. Look at you, man. Well, what do you think here? Do you think that they can win it without him?
Yeah, I think they can win it without him because they've been there before without him in 2000. What was that? 21?
That was 2019.
That was 19. That was 19. So, and it's pretty much the same team, and they gotten, if not better over the years, so and they got there last year and did not win it with them. And they're pretty much doing just fine this year in their offense without him. So I think they can get there and win it without him. It's just going to come down to Brock Purdy, in my opinion.
I was going to say the same thing, man. Yeah. Brock Purdy has a chance to make himself an ass load of money without McCaffrey there. Because they're not going to be able to say you're only good because of McCaffrey and the guys around you now if he balls out without him.
Yep. So it's just going to come down to Brock Purdy if he can get those guys to the promised land and capture it this time versus watching the confetti fall on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Packers, Rams, and Ravens, Bengals. I lumped these two games together because I wanted to ask you this, Pat. Which 1-3 team has a better chance of getting its crap together, the Rams or the Bengals?
I'm going to go with the Bengals. And I know early on in the year how we talked about if the Bengals start off slow, I didn't think they was going to get it back on track. But you give me an option out of these two teams. So I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals coming off not a impressive win last week, but, a nice road win against the Carolina Panthers, who came into that game playing with a lot of energy behind Andy Dalton. But I believe I have more trust in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase than I have in my man Matthew Stafford. And I don't even know who he's throwing the ball to. So
Tutu Atwell at this point.
Exactly. Tutu Atwell is like 5'8", and he can run a straight line fast. So he's not a receiver that can go out and route guys up and get open on a versus man-to-man coverage on a consistent basis. So out of those two teams, I would have to go with the Cincinnati Bengals because I like Jamar Chase and the Joe Burrow connection better.
Well, I have a disease here. I have something that afflicts me, and that is I have a penchant every time the Bengals give me even the smallest reason to believe in them. I fall for it. And at 0-3, having lost 2 terrible games, all I needed to get back on the bandwagon was for them to beat Carolina.
Right.
Because now I'm convinced they're going to beat Baltimore at home, and that'll get them to 2-3. And they're playing a last place schedule this year because they finished in 4th in 2023.
Yeah.
And the schedule is much easier for them than it is the Steelers and Ravens the rest of the way. They've already played Kansas City. And I will end up at some point on this podcast making some idiotic statement between now and the end of the year where I say, you know what, I think they're a dark horse to win the Super Bowl, because that's what I do with them, Pat. I just love the dude's swag so much that I get hooked in with Joe Burrow.
Man, yeah, he is cold as ice now.
Yeah, their defense is not ice at all. It's melted away basically to nothing. It's evaporated. So they can easily have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry go for about 400 combined yards.
So why do you think
in this game?
So how do you think? Not how. Why do you think they're going to beat the Ravens next week?
Because I think it'll be a shootout and they'll have the ball last and they'll just make one more play than them, basically.
Really? I don't see it happen. I think Ravens found their groove.
Well, you need to get back on your sports book grind then and get that one in, because the line's only 2.5 for that one, Pat.
Really? Yeah. I gotta. I'm new to this. So I gotta get back. I gotta see what obviously Vegas knows something. So who is a favorite in that game? Ravens, I'm assuming, right?
The Ravens are favored by 2.5. Yep.
All right. Yeah, Ravens are favored by 2.5. I mean, I see both of these teams losing, but the Bengals I feel have the better chance.
Agreed.
Of getting their stuff together. All right. We got the Panthers and the Bears. We already know that the Panthers are regretting not getting CJ Stroud. Do you think the Bears are regretting on Williams just yet?
Okay, how could you not? Think about what you said about Jayden Daniels minutes ago.
Yep.
Okay, and they scored 3 straight possessions last week, and Williams looked better. But how could you not think to yourself, was there a scenario in which we brought in an offensive coordinator that, could you have done the Kingsbury, Jayden Daniels thing with the Bears? Could you have hired you could have hired Kings. I don't think they would have hired Kingsbury to be their head coach, but could you have found a way to pair a better offensive coach with Daniels in Chicago? Or is it just the fact that Chicago's just cursed with quarterbacks, Pat, and really doesn't matter who the frig is there? It's always going to find a way to go wrong. I don't think that that's the right answer. I think that right now, Bears fans are clinging to a drive here or a pass here, and they're trying to cope with the fact that there's a very good chance 5 years from now, Jayden Daniels is going to be an all-pro quarterback and Caleb Williams is going to have washed out of the NFL. I hate to be a Bears fan right now, watching what Daniels is doing. That's the worst feeling when you had a chance to draft a franchise quarterback, even if your guy doesn't suck, even if he's just okay, or just, he's maybe is going to take him more time. It's the guy with the next pick we just said might be the MVP of the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? If you're Chicago, how could you not have second thoughts about that pick right now? And they didn't even really do their homework on Daniels. They jumped all in on Williams very fast.
Right. Is it true? I thought a story came out saying that Cliff Kingsbury turned down the Chicago job.
Do you think it's because he knew they were taking Williams?
I don't know. That's why I was asking you. Was that true? I thought I'd
have to ask my old podcast partner on the show, Danny Parkins, about that, but he's big time now, and he'd probably lie to me, and he tried to cover for the Bears and make Caleb Williams out to be more than he is. Williams, if I'm grading quarterbacks for the first 4 games, I give Jayden Daniels an A, and I give Caleb Williams a C. And when the difference is that stark, Bears fans, if I was a Bears fan, I would root for Caleb Williams to play well, and I'd also root for Jayden Daniels to come crashing back down to earth here over the next 2 games. That's how fans' brains work, Pat.
Hey, I'm on this. This is my first time in about 25 years being on this on this end of the spectrum. So I'm a fan too, but I'm damn sure not thinking like that.
Giants and Seahawks. Geno Smith leads the NFL in passing yards. I don't know if all of our listeners and viewers know that. It's Geno right now is number one.
Mm-hmm.
So Daniel Jeremiah, who works for the NFL Network, said this week that Geno Smith is playing like a $50 million quarterback. Do you see it?
50 mil? Who's getting 50 million right now? Then I say I see it if I see it or not. We know Patrick's getting 50.
Pull up the 50 million club for us here, Spence.
50 million club.
Because you've got guys like Burrow who are right there, Herbert. Yep. Then below them, you've got Tua. You've got Jared Goff. You've got Kyler Murray. You've got Josh Allen. You've got Patrick Mahomes. Both of those guys are horribly underpaid.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Hurts is in this club.
Ooh. Yeah.
Lamar. Okay. We forgot about him.
Deserving of the 50.
Yes.
Keep him coming, Spence. Who else we got?
Jordan Love. So what do you think?
Trevor. Yes.
Yeah, that Trevor Lawrence one ain't looking good, brother.
Yes,
brutal. Yes. All right. So, I mean, honestly, I think one of the takeaways here is there's a lot of quarterbacks that are making that amount of money. There's some that are underpaid that are making probably what they should. And there's a couple of guys like Trevor Lawrence that swindled the organization they're playing for and basically robbed the bank.
I'm not going to be the one to say that, these guys don't deserve what they got. But if they're getting paid $50 million, I'm not, besides Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love, but if Hurts is getting paid $50 million, Trevor is getting paid $50 million, and the way Geno is playing right now, I have to agree that he's playing like a $50 million quarterback because he's playing like a Lamar Jackson. He's playing like a Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes is not in that $50 million category. But far as his stats and the way that he was zipping that ball, although they lost Monday night against the Detroit Lions.
That's because the ball never hit the turf for Detroit that night, which I've never seen before.
Yes. 18 however many yards that he had. That was insane night for Jared Goff. That was almost going back to the night he had that shootout they had in the Coliseum versus
Chiefs and Rams.
No, that was that was the Chiefs. Yes, that was the Chiefs.
Yep.
No, that was the Minnesota Vikings game. Back in the Coliseum, if I'm not mistaken.
Vikings versus Rams?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a crazy. Nah, you're right. It was the Chiefs. It was the Chiefs.
Yep.
But it took you back, to that type of game, the way it was going back and forth. But the way that Geno is throwing the football right now, and what I've seen throughout this season, yes, he's playing like a $50 million quarterback.
He's always going to fight, I think, the uphill battle that is where he was, not necessarily where he was drafted, but how long it took him to become this kind of quarterback. And I just think, even the last couple of years here, the way that Seattle did his contract, it was like, you're still going year to year. And basically, if you screw up even a little bit, we're going to cut bait and go with somebody else. He's not being treated like he's a guy that teams believe year in and year out, as long as we have this guy on the field, we can win.
Right. Which sucks. Because I had an opportunity to play against, in high school, so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I've seen the pro style arm that this guy has since he was in high school. I think what it comes back down to is the offensive style that he was in college. All this, I don't even know what you call that offense. Flicking the ball here,
air raid.
Yeah,
the air raid offense.
So it really didn't, show the talents that he really had. Like Geno was had one of the best arms I've ever seen in high school ever. Like the way what he's doing now, he was doing that crap in high school, bro. I'm not even joking right now, bro. Like this dude used to be dropping dimes and just throwing bullets all over the yard. So I think it just comes back to the offense that he was in, and it just took him time to adapt to the pro style offense. He went over to the got drafted by the Jets. That ended up going, and now he had to take the back seat to start to now really digest and understand how these pro style offenses really work. Because he can throw the football. He got good accuracy. He got good arm power. It's just now all about understanding when I'm in this system, now what I'm going to expect out of the defense. And I think that's when his game really started going to the next level, taking the back seat and really understanding these defenses behind these quarterbacks. And now we're seeing Geno Smith flourish.
He's the patron saint of all these guys like Baker, Sam Darnold, who have to go places and be humbled and then come back and get a chance to play. Spence is right. The guy got punched in the face by a teammate over some stupid stuff. And, that blew up in the New York tabloids, and it took him forever to shake that image.
Yeah.
And, now he's known as the guy that said after that Russell Wilson game, I saw what all the critics said about me, but I didn't write him back.
Right.
And so people love that attitude that he has. My only quick story on him was and I don't do this anymore because I just for whatever reason developed unbelievable paranoia every time I did it. But I used to smoke an unbelievable amount of marijuana. And in 2000, I think I want to say 2011 or 12, maybe it was, he was at West Virginia and they played their first Big 12 game against Baylor. And I got unbelievably stoned, got a ride down there and watched them play Baylor. And the final score of that game, Pat, was 70-63.
Oh my God.
I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. I didn't think it was real. I thought it was because I was, on hallucinogenic drug maybe, that I was watching a video game in front of me. 70-63 was the final score of that
crazy.
Game. Yeah.
70. And who West Virginia played at that
Baylor.
That night? Baylor.
Bryce Petty was their quarterback.
I was going to ask you who was
he got drafted ironically got drafted by the Jets too.
Wow. Yep. That's nuts. That's nuts. All right, moving on to the Broncos and the Raiders. Someone had a post on Instagram saying that this is possible that was last week was Devante Adams' last game. Coach Antonio Pierce liked the post. What is your take off that?
I see everything that gets said, but I'm not someone that engages with people on there that much. Stephen A. Smith gave me one of the best pieces of advice I've ever seen when he said to me, they don't pay me to debate people on Twitter. They pay me to debate people on TV. And the last thing you need is to debate somebody on Twitter and end up losing your job or worse because of something some knucklehead says. I think some people are too online. The last thing I want is for my head coach to be too online. And I would call Antonio Pierce into the office if I were the GM, the team president, or the owner there and say, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, fine that you feel, because he made the business decision comment. It's fine if you think guys are here who don't want to be here and you want to draw a line in the sand and say, are you with us or against us? But you have to do it behind closed doors. You can't, in a way, even if it's passive aggressive, the way that people are so,
micromanage everything.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to see that. So it's just that's not something a head coach should be doing. Like, maybe fans want to laugh it off and say, "Oh, it's just a like of an Instagram post." These players care so much about that crap now.
Right.
They think their brand is connected to what's on social media. So the fact that the coach says something that's like, somewhat derogatory about a guy by means of Instagram, I think that is going to draw a wedge between two people. So he must have known the writing was on the wall and was in his feelings when he did that, Pat. It must have been an emotional moment, and he better not do it again, is what I would say to Antonio Pierce if I were him.
I think they definitely should have handled that in a different manner as a head coach. Like, you don't see head coaches doing that, liking posts or any or anything of that nature. You may see them post something of, of a practice or, community things that
But
they
could
need.
you imagine if someone posted, "Hey, I'm happy Pat Peterson is about to play his last game with the
Right.
Cardinals."
Yeah.
Bruce
That's just
retweets
not a
it.
good look. That's just not a good look. And like you said, the players nowadays, they take offense to everything. And Devante is not any player. Like Devante is going to be
Yeah,
a Hall of Famer, So
right.
the fact that he liked the post versus just coming to me, talk to me if it was my last game, it just rubs me the wrong way. It rubs the player the wrong way for sure.
And Antonio Pierce was a player.
Right.
That's what I don't get about it.
Yeah. It's just super petty to me if you sit back and look at it like
Yep.
you said, why is the coach even liking the post anyway of that nature?
I'd
That
say
post.
I know you just beat the Browns, but dude, you're 2-2. You're not 4-0. Get your ass off Instagram and start getting together with your coaches to beat the friggin' Broncos.
Hey, but coaches probably like the players, like you said, he's an ex-player, so coach might, after the game, might went on Instagram, start strolling, and
You
saw
want to
him
hear
like,
something?
oh,
You want to hear something? I know guys that were on Instagram at halftime. They didn't even wait till the damn
wow,
game was over. No joke.
that's crazy,
I've
man.
gotten I've gotten threatening DMs at halftimes of games, Pat.
Wow, we don't want to know. We don't need to know.
Colts, Jaguars, Dolphins, Patriots. Any thoughts on these games?
Dolphins, Patriots, don't nobody care. The Colts, Jaguars, that's almost like a don't nobody care. But I want to see what Joe Flacco is going to do for this Colts team, because when Joe Flacco stepped in last week for the injured Anthony Richardson, it just seemed like they was playing with a whole new fire on offense. The offense started clicking a little bit more. Plays seemed to make a little bit more sense, as I was watching, versus broken down plays, just heaving the ball down the field, 60, 70 yards. That's all cute. But we like to see, efficiency in the offense. And it just seemed like Joe Flacco has a better command of that Indianapolis Colts offense. So I'm going with the Colts in the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I like the Colts to win, although they
Oh my
haven't
God.
won in Duval since 2014. So I like
Well,
the
if that
Jacksonville
happens,
Jaguars to take a L this Sunday.
I'll make
versus
a prediction then, Pat. If that happens,
Okay.
I don't think Doug Peterson's their coach on Monday. That's going to be my prediction right now. If Jacksonville goes to 0-5, the last
You
winless
think
team.
they get rid of Doug
Yep.
after an 0-5 start? Well, that'd be what, 0-11?
Yep.
Last 11 games?
Yeah, you can't.
But
You're paying
here's
with
my
how much you're paying your quarterback to let
right.
old man Joe
I get all
Flacco
of that.
on your turf?
Right.
No.
I get all of that. But who have the Jacksonville Jaguars ever been to be firing a Super Bowl champion?
I don't disagree with you on that, but I mean, you can't sit around and watch a guy ruin Trevor Lawrence and lose half the game, bro.
Yeah, man, that man ain't ruining Trevor Lawrence.
Well, then who is Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, he's in his own way, because you got to think about it, man. All the coach can do is put the player in position to go out there and be successful. If the player is out there seeing ghosts, that's on the player. Like, I can understand if like the system was just all out of whack for Trevor Lawrence not to be successful. But the system is in place for Trevor to be successful. Trevor is the one not being successful right now.
Yep.
Right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of griping there about the offensive coordinator, not just from the media, but I think the players feel the same way. And Peterson took the coaches. Peterson basically said he after the last game, he said the coach, me and Press Taylor, called a great game. He put it right back on his players. I thought that was hilarious. I mean, I don't know how that would go over well in there. Like, don't look at us. They suck, not us. These were great. That was unbelievable for a coach that hasn't won a game in that long.
Yeah, me and Zach, we called a great game, man. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it was incredible that he said that. But my only thought on Miami, New England is Mike McDaniel probably he probably looked at that Joe Flacco second half and said, if I had Joe Flacco, if we had paid him to be our backup quarterback behind Tua,
Man,
my ass would still be in good shape right now. Because
listen,
Flacco could step in here and run this offense and get the ball to Waddle and Tyreek Hill. How do you, if you're Miami with a quarterback with Tua's history, how do you not have a real backup quarterback there?
yeah. Not only that, they got to go make a trade for a quarter if they want. Well, yeah, if they want to compete in their division. I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries on defense right now. Phillips just now suffered a knee injury. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. But you got to go get some. You got to make a trade or something that's going to get you through this year.
What if they got Brissett from New England?
No, they need to go get. Yeah, leave Brissett where he is. I like Brissett. He's a solid quarterback, but I don't think he'll fit the Dolphins' scheme of what they would want to do. I think the best fit quarterback for them would be like a Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston. 100%. I like Jameis.
Oh man, he's such a personality too. Him down in
He
Miami.
is. He'll be great. He'll be great. Him and Mike Daniels as a combo. Oh my God.
Yeah, that would be.
What would that be?
Those press conferences would be must watch. All right. Thanks to everybody who watched another episode of First and Pod. We'll be back Sunday night breaking down all these games, starting with my team, the Steelers, and America's team, which I don't know why they're still called that. They haven't won anything since the mid-'90s. The Cowboys. Listen and subscribe to First and Pod on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks to Spencer Ray. He's Patrick Peterson. I'm Andrew Fillipponi. Thanks again for listening.